Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining Max and I today. In an attempt to truly be a human first company, we've decided to put together a short, maybe a series of shorts that more humanize the team and the kind of the journey that we've been on as founders. A lot of times we go to events and we run into people who are just starting off, who are in a similar position where we were a year, 2 years ago, etc. And just this concept of founders helping founders, right? By sharing our stories, we hope that maybe you can glean a little opportunity and also get to know us a little bit better. So I'm James. I'm one of the co-founders. I head up a lot of the R&D, help manage the team, and I'd like to introduce our co-founder Max.
Yeah, so my name is Max, and I do most of the kind of BD, focusing on growth, chasing investors, chasing people. That's mainly what I do. A lot of Telegram.
Chasing investors.
Yeah.
That's probably a good place to start. So, we started our fundraising, our pre-seed fundraising in around February of last year, just around ETH Denver. And, at the end of the day, well, at the end of the week of ETH Denver, Max miraculously managed to line up, I think, was it 69 pitches for that week? We were doing like 6 or 7 a day.
Yeah.
Do you want to maybe talk about how you do that? Like, I know for most people that's like the biggest mystery, right? How to actually get people to sit down with you.
Shit. Yeah, no. It's been interesting. First and foremost, maybe we should address that this has also changed a lot over the year, right? When we started this, it was very much a bull market. But at the end of the day, like it really comes down to building a relationship with people early on, and it's something I think you just have to learn, right? Which is going to events and then how do we say this? Like, I like to just have a beer with people and talk about cool stuff, and then
To be a human being with people, right?
yeah, no, exactly, not being a robot. I think
How-
that's kind of like the main thing, right?
So, like, maybe as I'm a little bit more of an introvert than you are. Like, for me, my gut reaction right before we met was always, oh, I don't want to waste their time. I don't want to get on the calendar. Oh, I'm not ready. Right? There was this sense of I have one shot to make that first impression, and I think your philosophy is fundamentally different to that, and definitely yours works better. So I guess how early on in the process do you start building that relationship? Like, how do you introduce that? Like,
Well, that's a good question. I think the key thing is and this is also coming from a sales background where it's having sat in basically a boiler room, picking up phones and doing 200 calls a day.
oh no.
Which is at some point, just the fear of rejection gets beaten out of you. So I think that's the first thing. Second thing is also remembering that, and I like to say this, just like everybody poops. It's kind of like at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and especially when it comes to investors as well, you keep forgetting that everybody's looking for something out there, and you always have something to offer. But also, it's really about just building a relationship and continuously keep building those relationships and having fun in the process. Like people invest with and buy from people that they can relate to,
Right.
which is also like why sometimes you need to be a little bit raunchy, but you also need to kind of just recognize exactly the person you're talking to and really listen. I had one old salesperson as well who told me, like, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth and you should use them in that proportion. Like listening to people, listening to what they're interested in.
Right.
But I think it's just a mix of that kind of like not giving a shit, as well as not like as in not giving a shit, as in like don't be afraid of rejection and just keep pushing, right?
Yeah, I think you make a good point, right? By making it less transactional and focusing more on the human being and the relationship, we've ended up with better relationships with the investors that we did bring on to our round, right? I think that we were able to both communicate the vision of the project, but also translate who we are as people, right? And I know everyone's always heard that, oh, like investors, they invest in a team and an idea, like especially for early stage companies. And throwing your photos up on a slide doesn't really communicate who you are as a person, and so the relationship part of that, is huge.
Yeah, I think it's also important to kind of, because we had some investors that we had. Yeah, I think one of them said basically no 3 times before they came aboard. Like, it's kind of like at the end of the day, it's not transactional. It's not right now. Like, you can, even if you get a no, you continue the conversation. Like, we're in a very kind of community-driven and events-driven industry. It's like showing up, meeting people, having a good time. It's because also like your project develops, right? So you remember like the first deck we put out there, it was complete garbage.
The template and half an idea, yeah.
Fuck, like not even half an idea, I would say, almost. But like it was like an idea, and it was a dream, and then as we continued over pitches, it evolved as we evolved, as the project evolved, and then we get continuous updates. And there were definitely people we were talking to, over the course of 6 months. Where by the end of it, it was, we got great feedback that, this is really developed. And, I know it's like always, like, especially in any type of sales or anything, like a no isn't always a no.
No.
Like, it's a maybe.
A no is, well, that, and just because they don't get back to you doesn't mean they're not interested. You just have to stay top of mind. We definitely chased a few people too.
Yeah.
I think kind of to that point, right? The continuous iteration of your pitch deck, you have to do volume, right? I think of the 80 something, 90 something people that we invested in, right? That we pitched, we ended up with 8 on our cap table, 9, right? We're doing them just shy of 10%, which after the fact seems like pretty good, but that's also right. 70 rejections, ghosts, no's, maybes, come back later, you're too early, maybe the next round, right? And so I think there's a lot of, every feedback you get isn't necessarily good feedback, right? We've also had people give us bad feedback on our pitch deck, and unless you're pitching in volume, it's hard to tell the difference, right? Because it's like, oh, this guy has a $200 million fund. He must know what he's talking about. And then you talk to 10 other people and they're like, oh no, that's absolutely wrong. He's trying to, get a better valuation, get more bang for his buck, right? Whatever. And so there's a lot of, you just have to get out there and pitch and iterate, right? So take notes, learn from the conversations. I think one of my favorite stories from pitching in East Denver last year was the fact that we didn't always have a chance to take the pitch too seriously, right? Like when we pitched Coin Fund, when we met Christian for the first time, we were in a fake Western museum exhibit. Like we were on a front porch of some like Wild West house leaning up against the barrel. I think Christian was on a porch swing. You were leaning up against a post, and we're just like, here's a little laptop, let's have a conversation. And right, I think that was a very human experience, right? The fact that we're just here to talk about an idea in a team, and we're not married to the pitch deck itself. You can pitch with that. And
we also got kicked out mid pitch.
We did get kicked out mid pitch,
which was fun.
It was a place of learning, not a place of business. So
I think that's a very valid and important point, which is. Like we met a lot of people at conferences, right? And we get great outcome afterwards. But it's also because we don't necessarily do the heavy pitch over there. It's more an introduction to the idea. It's like a first date in a sense. Yeah. You say you smile, make eye contact, and then you set up a date afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I've never felt so pretty as when we were pitching last year.
Yeah, but then let's also address the fact that a lot of things happened over the year, right? As we were going through it, you had the Terra Luna collapse. You had what else happened? Terra Luna, 3 Hours Capital, Celsius, FTX. Definitely made the climate a lot harder.
Yeah, everything and then all the other tokens that just kind of followed suit, right? There was a bunch of hacks in between. There was a lot of networks that didn't survive. Bull market was bull market, and recognizing the fact that we snuck in most of the round at the end of it, and then had to kind of suffer through closing it was definitely definitely one of the most challenging things, I think, because we had set up, we'd set our goals. At one point we were oversubscribed, and then the bear market the turn came so fast, and I think that's part of it. But then again, here we are a year later, and things are optimistic. I'm not going to say things are better, but things are optimistic. So I think that's actually a good piece of advice, and I've said this to a few folks that I've met along the way. When you're fundraising, be ready for the yes. Like, have your bank account set up, have your company incorporated, have your safe drafted by your lawyers. Like, know exactly what you're going for, so that when you do get that yes, it's not okay, let me get back to you, and then you find out that it takes 6 weeks to incorporate and 4 weeks to open up a bank account and all of those crazy things. Like, I think that was probably one of the biggest learnings that we had, was that we got yeses and then we sat on it because we weren't ready for the yes. And then and then we lost people along the way because of it, right? Because the market conditions changed. They were no longer in a position to make that investment. Yeah. And we're talking like a matter of weeks, right?
It all changed in 1 week, right? Yeah. It was literally turned going to happen, and then it was just trying to figure out which investors were still alive.
Who was still kicking.
And I think that's also the important thing, like when that situation happens, which kind of ties back into just being a goddamn human, right? Which is just because, you're not getting a response, that could often just mean that there's something else going on, and you gotta be empathetic about that. Yeah. And, maybe not go, hey, sign the safe, we sent it, but rather go like, hey, are you guys, okay?
Yeah. Well, and I think that brings up another good point, like understanding that your investors also have their own business that they have to run, right?
Yeah.
In most situations, VCs also have limited partners that they have to maintain happy, right? And their goal is to deploy the capital, return investment for their LPs, and then get ready to raise the next one, right? It's all about the next fund for them. And so, especially when stuff like Silicon Valley Bank and First Republic, right? It's just like reaching out to our, VCs, investor friends that we've made along the way, and be like, hey, are you guys okay? Like, is this bad for you? I mean, fortunately, no one ended up getting hurt, but that was a scary weekend, right?
It was close. It was close for 1 or 2, I think. Like, we had a lot of LPs with money with SVB.
Yep. Or USDC depegging. The only weekend I didn't travel with the company ledger. That was fantastic.
That was a stressful weekend.
Trying to recover from Denver.
Oh man, that was fun. So what else happened this year? What else was? Well, first and foremost, super proud of our team. We're getting close to a launch, so that's fucking amazing, right?
Yeah.
Having people building on us, which is super fun.
Oh man, I'd say that's probably one of the most rewarding things, at least for me, is having people building on us, right? The story, right? Like, we used to, in our pitch, back when we were the Lisbon Web3 account protocol, we'd say that, we called it Lisbon because it was born on a napkin on a flight to Lisbon and really grew up over margaritas in Lisbon, and everything happened around Lisbon, so it was the Lisbon protocol. But to go from a back of the napkin sketch of a maybe this would work to, almost to the day a year later be in Denver and have teams that have no background in cryptography, have no understanding of multi-party computation, be able to come out and build something and develop a whole new product, a whole new protocol, a whole new interface on something that a year ago was, right, an idea. Really hats off to the team that has helped us build it and has kind of struggled with us as we learned and improved and iterated and did research and incorporated new ideas into it to improve it. It's been a constant process for sure.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a sense of relief walking around as like a hackathon judge and being like, oh shit, you did this with our like little idea from a year ago. Like that's so cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was for sure probably one of the most rewarding things in the past year. For sure, for me.
Yeah. No, I would say like right now it's also like talking to people about this new kind of like type of accounts, like all the new possibilities that open up. It's actually really cool.
Yeah.
Like when people can actually play with it, like they can touch it in a completely different way.
Right. And building on it. So thank you for
I
everyone
guess-
who made it this far. I think we'll probably do more of these. I think next time we'll probably try and include Steven. So for all the CTOs out there or CTO wannabes, we can definitely give you his experience as well. But yeah, we appreciate anyone that's made it this far listening. Hopefully it's been a little bit helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch. Right, we're here. We're human. We love learning about what people are building. If you're interested on building on Intu and you have questions about our experience, by all means, get in touch. We're here.